What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to GamerFuzion. The next couple of years of role-playing games are absurd. We have got a new Witcher, a new Elder Scrolls, a new Fable, and a new Persona, all sitting in the same window. Some of these have hard dates, some of them have nothing at all. So today we are going through 13 upcoming RPGs that are going to eat your entire year, and I am going in order of when we expect them. Everything here is what has actually been confirmed as of this video. Where something is a rumor, I will say so out loud. Let us get into it. We start with The Blood of Dawnwalker, and the pedigree here is the story. Rebel Wolves is a studio built out of the people who made The Witcher 3. That includes Konrad Tomaskiewicz, who directed it. This is their first game, and it is a single-player open-world RPG running on Unreal Engine 5. It is set in 14th century Europe during the Black Death. You play as Cohen, who is half human and half vampire, and the game calls that a Dawnwalker. The hook is that your powers change depending on whether it is day or night. As a human, you can talk your way through problems and move around in daylight. As a vampire, you get the powers, but the sun becomes a problem and people react to you differently. That is not a cosmetic toggle. It changes which routes through a situation are even available to you. It is currently slated for September 3rd on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, consoles, and PC. Of everything on this list, this is the one arriving soonest, and it is a debut game from a brand new studio carrying an enormous amount of expectation. Phantom Blade Zero comes from the Chinese studio S-Game, and it is targeting October 29th for PlayStation 5 and PC. This one is a wuxia action RPG built in Unreal Engine 5. The comparisons people keep reaching for are Sekiro and Devil May Cry, which tells you roughly how fast it moves. The studio has confirmed the game has gone gold, so development is finished. The detail that turned heads is the involvement of Donnie Yen. The martial arts star has been a creative consultant on the combat since 2023, and he is the facial and motion capture actor for a character called Mo Yuan. That is the kind of credit you almost never see on a game like this. The studio put out an 11-minute extended gameplay showcase covering new story beats and characters, and pre-orders opened alongside it. If you want a sense of how the combat actually flows rather than how it looks in a 2-minute cut, that is the one to watch. The Duskbloods is FromSoftware, and it is a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. That second part still surprises people. This is not a traditional Souls game either. It is built around online multiplayer at its core, with up to 8 players competing against each other and against the environment at the same time. Hidetaka Miyazaki has described it as a player versus environment design. Visually, it is pulling openly from Bloodborne, which is exactly why the reaction has been what it has been. FromSoftware ran a closed network test for it, so people have had hands on the thing. Worth saying plainly that this is a very different proposition to Elden Ring or Sekiro. If you were hoping for another long single-player campaign from FromSoftware, this is not that game. It is also their first Nintendo exclusive, which is a genuinely strange sentence to say out loud. There is no specific release date yet beyond the studio pointing at 2026. Persona 4 Revival is Atlas rebuilding Persona 4 in Unreal Engine 5, and it is dated for February 18th, 2027. It lands on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC, and it is on Game Pass on day one. This is a real remake rather than a port. Inaba has been rebuilt, the character portraits are redrawn, and the daily life and social link scenes are now fully voiced. Combat has picked up mechanics from the newer games. Baton Pass is in, so you can hand your turn to another party member after a knockdown. There is a new Sen flying attack that spreads status ailments between enemies, and Prime Time is a combo state where your skills cost nothing and resistances get ignored, ending in a heavy finisher. Composer Ryota Kazuka has written new tracks and remixed the originals. Combat is running at 60 frames per second. For a game originally released back in 2008, this is a far bigger rebuild than the word remake usually implies. Fable has been a long wait, and it finally has a date. Playground Games is targeting February 23rd, 2027. This is the studio behind Forza Horizon, which is a strange fit on paper until you see what they have done with Albion. This is the first fully open world Fable. You start as a child in a place called Briar Hill before the story pushes you outward. Combat still runs on swords, ranged weapons, and magic, but they have rebuilt how you move between them. The number that stuck with me is over 1,000 handcrafted characters, each individually voiced, and every house in the world can be entered. The morality system has been reworked too. Playground has said they wanted it to feel natural rather than the old version where being evil physically deformed your character. It is on Game Pass on day one, and Premium Edition owners get in 5 days early on February 18th. It is also coming to PlayStation 5, which is not something anybody expected from a Fable game. Exodus is the one with the mechanic I cannot stop thinking about. Archetype Entertainment was founded by BioWare veterans, and this is their first game. It is a science fiction RPG set 40,000 years in the future after humanity has fled a dying Earth. You play as June, a salvager with a bloodline connected to something called the Traveler Dynasty. Here is the hook. Because you travel at light speed, time moves differently for you than for everybody back home. You might be gone for days and return to find 10 years have passed. The people you know age without you. Their feelings toward you change. Matthew McConaughey plays a character called Orlev in his first video game role. The setting is a world called Lydon, where humanity settled after Earth, and the terraforming systems there are failing because of something the game calls the rot. Jun is fully customizable and can be male or female. It is currently targeting early 2027 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. The Expanse Osiris Reborn is Owlcat Games stepping well outside their comfort zone. This is the studio behind the Pathfinder games and Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, all of which are isometric party-based RPGs. This one is a third-person action RPG set in the Expanse universe. That is a genuine shift. What carries over is the thing Owlcat is actually known for, which is reactivity. Their games track your decisions obsessively, and they let you break the story in ways most studios will not allow. Putting that instinct inside hard science fiction is an interesting combination. The other thing worth knowing is that this is a licensed adaptation rather than an original world. The Expanse has a very particular flavor of science fiction. Ships that obey physics, politics between Earth and Mars, and the belt and consequences that stick. That is a much tighter set of rules to write inside than Owlcat normally works with. It is currently slated for spring 2027 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Final Fantasy VII Revelation is the third and final chapter of the remake trilogy, and it is currently slated for spring 2027. Naoki Hamaguchi is directing again. This one launches on every platform at the same time, which includes PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, PC, and Nintendo Switch 2. That simultaneity is new for the series. 2 returning characters finally become fully playable party members. Vincent Valentine brings firearm-based combat, and Cid Highwind fights with a spear. The other thing shown is the Highwind itself. You get a controllable airship, and you can parachute out of it onto the map below. After 2 games of a world you could only walk through, that changes the shape of the whole thing. Clockwork Revolution is Insile, the studio behind Wasteland 3, and it is targeting 2027. It is an Xbox console exclusive, and it is on Game Pass on day one. You play as Morgan Vanette in a steampunk city called Avalon. Early on, you get hold of a device called the Chronometer, which lets you travel back 25 years to 1867. Whatever you change back there rewrites the present when you return. The studio has described the moment-to-moment feel as being in the spirit of BioShock and Dishonored. Large environments, multiple routes through them, and abilities like Displace that let you reposition objects to open a path or turn the room into a weapon. Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves is Generation 10, and it is a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive slated for 2027. Both versions launch at the same time. Being built only for Switch 2 matters here because the last few generations have been visibly held back by the original hardware. The region is a set of windswept islands surrounded by open ocean, and it is an open world. There is underwater exploration in there too. The 3 starters are Brout, who is a grass type, Pombon, a fire type, and Gekwa, the water type. And yes, there are 2 new Pikachu characters in summer outfits called Mr. Windychew and Miss Wavychew. I did not make that up. Light No Fire is Hello Games, the studio behind No Man's Sky, and this is where the list stops having dates. It was revealed as an open-world fantasy game set on a planet the size of Earth, generated rather than handcrafted and playable with other people. You can ride dragons. That is genuinely most of what we know. There is no release date as of this video, and there has been very little said since the reveal. It has been in development for more than 5 years. Sean Murray has said he is pleased with the progress, which is about as much as anyone has got out of them. Treat any date you see attached to this one as a guess. It is worth remembering how No Man's Sky went in both directions. That game launched into one of the roughest receptions of the last decade and then spent years being rebuilt into something people genuinely love. Hello Games going quiet is not automatically a bad sign. It is just how they work. The Elder Scrolls 6 is the biggest name here and also the one we have seen the least of. What exists publicly is a teaser of a camera flying over some mountains. That is it. Bethesda has never given it a release date. There is a claim going around from a leaker that the studio is internally targeting late 2027, but nothing official has been said, and I would hold that very loosely. What Todd Howard has said is that it is a return to the classic Bethesda open world formula, and he compared it directly to Oblivion and Skyrim rather than to Starfield. And we finish on The Witcher 4. This is the start of a new trilogy, and Ciri is the protagonist this time, not Geralt. CD Projekt Red has moved off their own Reed engine and built this one in Unreal Engine 5 using Lumen and Nanite. That was a significant decision for a studio that spent years on its own technology. The game has been in what the studio calls full-scale production since the end of 2024, and they showed it running at Unreal Fest this year. There is still no release date. What we do have is the company's own chief financial officer telling investors it will not arrive before 2027 at the earliest. So this is confirmed in production and further out than most people assume. Of everything on this list, it is the one I want to see moving the most. A few more that did not quite make the 13 but are worth having on your radar. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is coming to Switch 2, and it is the next mainline entry in Nintendo's tactical RPG series. Trails in the Sky Second Chapter continues the remake run for one of the most stubbornly dedicated JRPG fan bases out there. Onimusha Way of the Sword is Capcom bringing back a series that has been dormant for the best part of 2 decades. And if you want something you can actually play right now rather than wait for, Mortal Shell 2 is out, and it is the closest thing on this list to a traditional Souls-like. So that is 13. 4 of them have hard dates. Several are pointing at 2027, and 3 of the biggest have nothing at all. If even half of these land on time, it is going to be a genuinely ridiculous stretch for the genre. Which one are you actually waiting for? And more importantly, which one do you think slips first? Let me know down in the comments because I have my own suspicions. If you enjoyed this one, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next list. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.